Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Brent Kesler. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting, Life Unscripted. I'm so grateful to have you here this wonderful, well, here in Texas, super rainy day. But I'm really grateful to have you here talking about your new book and how you can help our business owners really explore wealth. As I told you before the interview, a lot of the business owners have come on. Some of them cracked the code and not worked for their business, but often a lot of them start a business to help the world and also build that thing called freedom. And they end up working for their business 10 times harder and longer than they would if they were an employee. Oh my gosh. You're the author of Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, Step into the Secrets of the Wealthy. You're also the founder of the Money Multiplier, America's #1 money mentor, along with Chris, how do you say it, Nagel?
Chris Nagel, that's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I actually downloaded your book because I was like, I want the secrets myself. But I know that our business owners, especially ones out there struggling, would love to hear more about that. But share a little bit about a brief history of how you even came to all this.
Yeah, no, absolutely right, Christina. And again, I appreciate you having me. So anyway, just as far as my background is that, like I'm actually a chiropractor. I no longer practice chiropractic anymore. I sold my last clinic in 2017, and I have not practiced myself in the clinic since about 2008. I had doctors in my clinic. I had 5 clinics in the Kansas City area. And again, as I said, I sold my last one in 2017. So both my wife and I became empty nesters, and we moved to Florida from Kansas City. Well, anyway, I was so in the state of Florida. That is actually where I was raised. And so now, just to get out of the cold weather, we basically moved back to Florida. But as I come to you today, I'm at my house here up here in just a place called Island Park, Idaho. And if you Google Island Park, Idaho, it comes up as one of the top 5 destinations for snowmobiling. Wow. So anyway, I like to snowmobile. So we've been up here since a couple days after Christmas, heading back to Florida. Actually, this in about 6 days, next Saturday, we're heading back to Florida. But yeah, so this concept, actually, it was driven by a guy, and anyway, his name is R. Nelson Nash, and he wrote this book called Becoming Your Own Banker. Well, that book totally transformed my financial life. Now, as a chiropractor, I first heard about this at a chiropractic convention. I was actually in a convention, and I heard this guy talking about this thing, becoming your own banker. And it looked really, really good, but it just seemed too good to be true, right? Have you ever seen something like that where it looks too good?
Well, that's what I was thinking when I started reading. I was like, this can't be true.
Yes, absolutely. So it was back in 2006 that I first heard about this concept, and I thought it looked good, but it just seemed too good to be true. So after I heard about it, I had gone back home. I went back to my chiropractic life, and I did nothing at all with this whatsoever. I go back to another chiropractic convention about 1.5 years, almost 2 years later, and about 10 or 12 of my chiropractic colleagues that were with me at that previous convention are now with me at this convention. Now, the only difference between them and me is they heard the information and they took action. They took action, and they're like, I got to do this in my life. So now I'm back at this new convention 2 years later, and I got about 10 or 12 of my colleagues coming up to me. They were basically throwing up all over me about this concept and how they were building, keeping, and creating wealth, all without changing their cash flow. They didn't have to work any harder. They didn't have to take any additional risk or lose control of their money. All they did was added this one simple step. So I thought to myself, Christina, there has to be something to this, right? There's no way that 10 or 12 of my colleagues are lying to me. Maybe 1 or 2, but not 10 or 12. So I went home and I told my wife, it was February of 2008. And I said, honey, we've got to start implementing this concept in our life. And it was in February of 2008. I was $984,711 in debt, almost $1 million in debt that I owed to third-party creditors. Now, At the time, I was living in Kansas. That's where I was, Kansas City. So you're probably thinking, well, how does a guy from Kansas get to be almost $1 million in debt, right? I know if you live in a place like California, that buys you a very small house,
Yeah.
but in Kansas, it buys you a lot, right? It probably buys you a lot in Spring, Texas as well. So anyway, all that debt that I had, it came from just like my student loans from my chiropractic college. I had my own house. I had a house on the Lake of the Ozarks between St. Louis and Kansas City. And if you have a house on the lake, guess what you have to have? A boat and a wave runner, right? You can't have a house on the lake without a boat and a wave runner. I'm also an airplane pilot, so I had to have my own airplane. So it didn't take me a lot to become almost $1 million in debt. Well, I was able to put this concept into place, and I was able to pay that debt off in 39 months, 3 years and 3 months. Didn't have to work harder, change my cash flow, take any additional risk or lose control. I just added one step in my financial life. Yeah. So then fast forward, I really got passionate about how this was working. I was coaching chiropractors on the sales and marketing aspect of their business, right? Not the technique, not the adjusting style, not the treatment style, but just the marketing aspect of their business. So I was actually coaching chiropractors how to be successful in your chiropractic clinic. And part of that success, I had to talk about, obviously, when they made money, how do you keep the money that you make, right? Because so many of us, even as business owners, even as doctors, lawyers, I mean, any profession you can think of, a lot of us are really, really good at making money, but we actually suck at keeping the money, don't we? So that was the thing. How do you keep the money? So as I'm coaching these chiropractors, I'm just sharing with them this concept and how I've applied it to my financial life and exactly what I was doing. So as I started to share that with more people, they started to see, wow, this is really working. This whole banking concept, this whole thing by this guy named R. Nelson Nash is really, really working. So I just had, then at that time, I felt that it was my mission. It was my passion. I felt that God put me on this earth to share this message with as many people as possible. So I just came home one day and I told my wife, I said, hey, honey, I know I spent a lot of time going to chiropractic school and building clinics, but I really think this is my calling. So I just started teaching this concept the same way that I was taught. And now that was back in, so as I said earlier, I first heard about this in 2006. I first became a customer of it in 2008, and I've been teaching it. And so I started teaching it in March of 2012. So I'm almost at my 11th year of teaching this concept. And here we are now, 11 years later. I have over 7,000 clients in every state of the country. I don't do marketing. I don't do advertising. I do come on and I do podcasts like this, or I'll get on a stage that somebody invites me to speak on. And all I'm doing, Christina, is I'm sharing with them exactly how I transform my financial life through this powerful concept. And 3 years ago, I wrote a book called Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery with Chris Naugle. Now, a lot of you guys may have heard that name, Chris Naugle. He's very active in the world of real estate and real estate investing. He's had a couple shows on TV, one on House Hunters, another one on HGTV. It's called Risky Builders. So he's very apt to this concept and how you apply this for as far as real estate investors, as far as me, myself, and just owning chiropractic businesses. So I really apply this to how you own a business and how you apply this concept in your business life, which then flows down to your personal life. And it's just a total game changer in your financial life.
I'm just curious. Why don't most people know about this? It seems like there shouldn't be a secret. Why is so few people know?
Absolutely. And it shouldn't be a secret. And a lot of times, so like if I travel and I share this message, like I'm going to be on like 23 stages at least this year, as far as speaking around the country on this concept. And then I'll be on additional stages where people invite me into their groups and speak, business owner groups like dentists, orthodontists, chiropractors, people that own businesses, with big real estate groups and things like that. Well, most of the time, after I get on that stage, people are looking and like, I've never heard of this before. Why haven't I heard about it before? Are you sure it's real? Are you sure it's not a scam? Right?
Yeah.
Well, I can assure you this concept is not brand new. It's been around for over 200 years. Like if you go and research the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Morgans, the Stanleys, the Barclays, this is all just how they build, keep, and create wealth in their family. And it's not a brand new concept. It's been around, but nobody has told us about this because this is not what your typical like financial advisor or financial planner knows, and it's not what they're learning. So what they do is they tell you, hey, let's put money in your 401k. Let's max out your retirement plan, your IRA, your quality, as far as your qualifying funds, your mutual funds, the stock market. Well, as you know, I mean, especially in the last year, 18 months, so people have been taking a bloodbath in those vehicles, their 401ks, IRAs, because people that have their money in those vehicles and they're losing. Yeah. In this like specific concept, in this vehicle, in this method, there is no way you can lose. The cash value is guaranteed to go up. It's not me telling you, it is in your policy contract. So before you ever sign, accept, and pay for this method, you need to make sure that contract says specifically, it shows you what the growth is going to be year after year.
Now, when we go into that, so this is where it all gets juicy because we're really talking about insurance. And that personal that insurance thing you think about, and I have one myself. I never even paid a bit of mine. We just throw a bit of there, throw some money in there. Hey, if I die, $500,000, $250,000 goes to my hubby, whatever. That's it. Never pay attention to it. It'll maybe bury me, whatever. But it's never, ever looked at. How the heck could that be used for wealth?
Right. Exactly right. And that is the machine. That is the vehicle that we're using is we're actually going to be using, Christina, a whole life insurance policy in a mutual company that pays dividends. Now, I know after I just said that, a lot of your viewers just turned off. They hit the X button and they're gone. They're no longer here. But again, all right, so let me be specific. This is not any life insurance policy. This is not the life insurance policy that you can go and buy from your brother-in-law that sells life insurance, right? We all have a brother-in-law that sells life insurance. No. This is a specifically designed, specially engineered whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends that has high immediate cash value. Now, my definition of immediate cash value is within the first 30 days. Wow. So when you put money into this policy, you immediately have cash value to use just from that policy. So the majority of the policies, the insurance policies that have any cash value that you've ever heard about in the past, they have zero cash value in the first year, zero or very little in the second year, and not much more in the third year. This policy has high cash value. And my definition of high cash value is anywhere between 60 and about 88% of the money that you put in there, you're able to use immediately. The definition again of immediately is within 30 days.
Wow.
So now, the reason that you haven't really heard about this is because a couple reasons. All right. So number one, if you think about it, all the wealthy people in your life that you know, the really wealthy people, how often are they sharing with you the secrets of how they've gotten wealth themselves? Not a lot. They really don't share it with you. And if you really want to know, you have to really ask them and pry it out of them. And sometimes they won't even do that for you. They won't even tell you what their secrets were. But Also, another reason that you don't hear about this from your advisors, your financial coaches, your consultants, your planners, is because in order for you to obtain a type of policy this way, the actual person that sells you the policy, the insurance agent, the financial coach, they have to take a 60 to a 90% in their commission to design this policy for you. And they're not willing to do it.
Yeah, of course not.
They're not willing to cut that commission.
There's nothing in it for them. I mean, very little in
Right.
it for, yeah.
You're exactly right. It's not worth it having to go through all the work and the effort to take that big of hit in the commission. So that's part of the reason why you haven't heard about it, but it has been around for over 200 years. And the thing is, just in my full presentation, which I'll share with your viewers before the end of the call and how they can watch my full 90+ minute recorded presentation, there's a couple examples that I go into where actually this is how JCPenney was able to keep JCPenney going. This is how Walt Disney started Disneyland. He had to collaterally borrow from his life insurance policies to start Walt Disney World because he went to the bank for conventional finances because he had this idea of Mickey Mouse and Disney World, and they all laughed at him and said, no, that's not going to work. So they wouldn't loan him the money to start Disneyland. So he had to borrow money from his cash value policies to start it. It's how Ray Kroc really got started with McDonald's. He had to borrow money from his policies to keep McDonald's going. Pampered Chef, this is how Pampered Chef got started anyway, her name was Doris Christopher from her Chicago home. So like this lady, Doris Christopher, she says, I have this idea, Pampered Chef. I'm going to start it. Nobody would loan her the money. She had to borrow money from her policies. And she later sold Pampered Chef to Warren Buffett for $1.5 billion.
Well, can I ask you something real quick? You're going to share the 90-minute lecture you did on this. Is it really like if someone say, okay, I'm like you were, I'm in the negative $1 million, $500,000, whatever. Yeah. How long does it take to really get a hold of this process, get it in use and get my debt cleared up? Is it a long process?
Well, it can be long and it can be short. It depends on you and how fast you want to go. So I'll give you a prime example, and this is the example I go in my presentation. The example I use in my presentation is a family that was $470,000 in debt. They owed 12 third-party creditors. They had their house, their condo, their boat, their car, and a bunch of credit cards. They owed $470,000. They decided to start this plan, this concept, this method by putting $25,000 a year towards that debt.
Okay.
So they were able to pay that debt off in a total of 61 months, 5 years and 1 month. And anyway, they did it, Christina, with an outside injection of $160,000. So in other words, they put $160,000 of outside money into their debt. They kept their cash flow the same. They never changed the cash flow. They never changed the payments that they were paying the 12 creditors. They were paying the minimum payment each month. Okay. And they ended up paying $470,000 off with a $160,000 outside injection in 61 months.
So now, the injection was from the insurance policy.
Yes, that was what they put into the policy. And then from the policy, they were able to borrow to use the money to pay that debt down. So the answer to your question is on that family, it took them 61 months at $25,000 a year to pay off $470,000. But now let's say you had twice the amount of debt and you're still going to put in $25,000 a year. It would take you twice as long. If you had half the amount of debt and you're still going to put in the same, it would take you half the amount of time. So the amount of time it takes you, Christina, it doesn't matter if it's slow or long or quick or fast. It doesn't matter. It's up to you, and you go at the pace that you want to go with. Now, I know I probably triggered a couple thoughts when I said this person put in $25,000 a year, and probably your viewers said, well, that's crazy. I would never put in $25,000 a year. Well, that's okay. Then just put in less. You can put in $100 a month. You can put in $10,000 a year. You can put in $100,000 a year. You decide. It's totally 100% up to you, Christina, of how much you put into this concept. You make the decision of how much that you want to put in. But let me say this. I have 7,000 clients in every state of the country. 91% of my clients that have been with me a year or longer come back and start more policies. And 70% of those have come back before the first year is even up, because they see how effective this is and how efficient that we work with them. So once you start this, and once you start doing this, and you're kind of, again, all we're doing is adding one simple step to your financial life. I'm not changing anything you're doing. We're adding one step. And once you add that step and you see how it works, it is a complete game changer.
Now, I want to go into the safety. You say that this is the safest method to build and grow wealth. How is that possible? Is like if our dollar went to zero, because I see the valuation of the dollar has gone down from day to day. Is this totally safe? Is if the dollar continued to devalue, would that hurt your policies? I'm just curious about all that. Yeah.
Well, no, great question. And yes, there is just like no other vehicle on this planet with just the features and benefits that it has that is any better than a whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends. Because I've been looking for this for the last 15 years and I haven't found it. And here's why. Because anytime we're talking about dollars in a whole life policy, we're talking about being able to pay with your dollars today and use your good dollars today. Because if you think about it, anytime we put money into a 401k IRA qualified plan, what we're doing is we're giving up our good dollars today to get paid back with non-guaranteed weaker dollars in the future, because all those plans are never guaranteed. Okay. So the thing you're doing is putting good dollars today to get paid with weaker dollars in the future, because our dollars are always weaker in the future, right? If you ever forget that, I want you to think about how many candy bars you could buy 25 years ago for $1.
Or how much groceries you could buy just 2 years ago.
Exactly. I mean, it's crazy, right? Because of inflation.
Yeah.
Well, the policy hedges against inflation because, see, this is not going by fractional reserve banking. For example, a conventional bank can loan out $8, $10, or $12 for every dollar they have on hand. It's fractional reserve banking. That's what happened to all the banks back in 2008 or whatever, when they had all this money lent out and they actually lent out more money than they had on hand to cover it. Well, with a whole life policy, fractional reserve banking does not come into play. We go by something called Austrian economics. $1 has to protect $1. These insurance policies are not federally regulated, they're state regulated, which means that the insurance companies cannot write the contract unless they have the dollars to back it up, right? Wow. So in that contract, the insurance company has to have those dollars on hand to be able to do what they say they're going to do on the contract. It can't be inflated dollars. So they're state regulated. And I'll go one step further. Nobody in your state or any state in this country has ever lost money in a whole life policy in a mutual, as far as in a whole life policy in a mutual insurance company that pays dividends. It's never happened. Go Google it, YouTube it. You will never see it. It's never happened because again, of the whole thought of Austrian economics, the insurance company has to protect those dollars. $1 equals $1.
You know, it just reminds me, before we got rid of the gold standard with dollars, we had to have the amount of money in the bank for them to actually say, okay, I'm going to give you this money or take in this money. But then we got rid of the gold standard, and now, you know, the bank doesn't have, I think one of the reasons, and maybe it's not all the reasons, but one of the reasons the bank doesn't like to shell out big sums of money is it really doesn't have a lot in its safe deposit box, and its how do you call it? Yeah. Where it stores all the money. It really doesn't.
You're absolutely right. For like
Mhm.
every dollar they have on hand, a bank can loan $8, $10, or $12,
Mm.
So I want you to think of this. If
Mhm.
everybody in the world, let's say we all went to the bank today,
Mhm.
everybody at the same time, we all went to the bank today to take out our money,
Mhm.
it's not there. You
No.
physically do not have the money. Basically, what would happen is you'd get about maybe 11 or 12 cents of every dollar. They just don't have it on hand. So
Mm.
all that stuff that you hear about, oh, my money's FDIC insured, that goes out the window.
Mhm.
It doesn't work.
They don't have it.
There is not
Mhm.
enough physical money
Mhm.
that is out there to be able to distribute it to all of the account holders if they all made a run for the bank today.
Yeah.
And again, so don't take my word for it. There's a lot of books out there. There's a book out there. I think it was written by Carlos Lara and Bob Murphy, How Privatized Banking Works.
Mm.
And even if you go and Google the book list of Nelson Nash's his preferred reading list, there's
Mm.
like 30 or 40 books that talks about fractional reserve banking. There's even a book out there. I don't know if you remember the guy that ran for president a while back, Ron Paul.
Yes.
Ron Paul wrote a book called End the Fed.
Yes.
That's another great book to look at. I mean, if you really peel the onion back and you kind of see what's going on, it would scare the crap out of
Yeah,
you
it
about
blows your
putting
mind
money into a
in a
bank.
bad way.
Yeah.
I love this talk. We could go on forever, but I want you to share, if you could, that wonderful video you talked about and how people can get a copy of your book. I'd really love that. Thank you.
Absolutely. So again, the name of our company is The Money Multiplier. So you can go to www.themoneymultiplier.com. And to watch the full presentation, if you go to the website, you click under a tab, it's called Resources, and then click on a tab called Presentation. I have my full 90+ minute presentation. I have all the downloadable attachments on there so you can follow along with my examples. It's also broken up into 10 sections. So if you prefer to watch it at a section at a time, so just go to the website, www.themoneymultiplier.com, resources presentation. If you want a copy of my ebook, I'm happy to email it to you. You can either text me, okay, and I'm going to give you my texting number. It's area code 785-248-9637. That's my texting number. Or you can email me, Brent@themoneymultiplier.com. My first name, BRENT, @themoneymultiplier.com. And just ask me to send you my ebook, and I'll email you that ebook. I can also email you some additional resources that we have too, some other videos and things like that. But there's tons of like videos on our website. Like even if you went to our website, there's like 70+ videos on there, right?
Yeah, I see them.
And I'll also give you another resource. The guy that wrote the book with me, Chris Naugle, Naugle. Just go to chrisnaugle.com and you can look at all the resources he has on there. Chris does a Wealth Wednesday webinar every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay.
And then I'll give you two other resources. Go to The Banking Bros, BROS, thebankingbros.com. You'll see two guys on there, Jonah and Jeremiah. They've been on my team for years. They do a great job of explaining the concept. You can follow them on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all that social media. And the last one I'm going to give you is a guy named, his last name is Burr. First name is Devin Burr. On TikTok and Instagram, it's MR_BRRRR. So it's MR_Burr, BRRR. It's a BRRRR. So it's 4 R's.
Okay.
And so like Devin, he lives in Arizona. He's a real estate investor. He's been a client of mine for years. He shows you how he buys all of his real estate and he recycles that money over and over and over again. Wow. He has about 800,000 followers on TikTok, hundreds of thousands on Instagram. So those are all great resources that you can go out and watch and learn more about this method. Everybody I just showed you, they're all associated with us. They're all in our organization, the Money Multiplier. And I mean, so the thing I tell people is I said, just go out there and again, the thing is, don't just take my word for it. Go out there and look and see what other people are doing, right? Because I could sit here and talk to you all day long about how great this is, but when other people that I've been working with for years can tell you how this is working in their life, that's going to mean way more than me telling you.
Yeah, it's going to really broaden the horizons, that it's not just one person speaking. It's several people out there having positive results with this. I'm taking down all these notes here so I can also put it on the show page. So Banking Bros, BROS.com, is it?
BROS. So www.thebankingbros.com, or it might be just Banking Bros, BROS. Okay. Jonah and Jeremiah, they're two. So anyway, I kind of tease about this. It's bros. So anyway, they're two black guys, Jonah and Jeremiah.
It's the bankingbros.com. Yeah.
So they're brothers, right? So the tall one is the younger brother. The short one that looks like the younger one is really the older one. They've been with me for, I don't know, maybe 10 years now. And they're great content, great resources as well, like on this information. So, and then either Chris Noggle, myself, Devin. So my daughter, Hannah, just right. Like if you go out and you Google our podcast and look at our podcast, Hannah does lots of podcasts. So Hannah is 23 years old. She has 5 of her own policies. She bought her own house with her policy. She likes to travel around in a camping van with her cats, and she goes to concerts and festivals. So this van, she put $134,000 into this van, and she bought it with her banking policy. So not only does she buy the house, does she buy the van, but she's recycling and recapturing that money. She's keeping that money in the family. There's no money being leaked out to other people.
Wow. Well, this is fabulous. You've given us so much insightful information. Your book already got me juiced up, but this is even more juiced to hear some more people I can check out. And everyone, you don't have to work hard. You've got wonderful gifts to share with the world. Don't don't work for your business and be in debt. Let's get out of debt so you can spend your time just helping people and helping the world. And I just have to thank you again, Brent, for coming to Savvy Broadcasting and sharing your great wisdom today. Thank you.
Awesome, Christina. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm here to help and serve your viewers in any way that I can.
Thank you.
Like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more savvy episodes and savvy biz tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.